So I'm going to say this and I might take it back. But if you have to tell yourself that you're a good person, chances are you're probably inflating who you are exactly. But I guess it comes down to what one considers to be good, right? I mean, when it's all said and done, we should all have a universal understanding of what good actually is and what it means. But when I hear someone say that they are a self proclaimed good person, I'm side eyeing your perception. Okay, that's no way to start a show, right? I know, I know. I'll start over. I'll be right back. Well, hello, hello, and welcome to In Your Ear Radio. I am your host, Latoya, so very happy to be with you on this fine Saturday. Thank you so much for joining me live. For those of you who are with me live today on Facebook and YouTube, I appreciate y'all. You know, your presence is my present. Um, Aside from a chip nail, everything's good out here. The weather's lovely, beautiful day, a little breezy, but you know what I'm saying. So y'all gonna be looking at my chip nail too hard. But anyway, how y'all doing? How's your mama doing? Tell her I want my plate back. All right, I'll give you guys a chance to go ahead and hop in and get yourself comfortable, and I'll go ahead and share this this video with my group. Just give me a moment to do that. Make sure I do it correctly, which I have done. Thank you so much. So, okay, yeah. So we're gonna get into it, y'all. I definitely want to have a conversation with y'all. We're gonna talk about good people. We're gonna talk about some bad people too. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna get into it. But I definitely want to just open up. Listening to my last show, just make a correction. I kept saying intellectual property, and I was speaking to encouraging people who have things on social media, videos, posts, anything that's important to them, photos or whatnot, that's on these different social media platforms or just anywhere digitally saved in that way, to download it to your own personal devices, to print out your photos and do things like that. But I kept saying your community property, which is not what I meant. And nobody corrected me. So I kept hearing myself say it. And I said, that's not what I meant. I was speaking more towards intellectual property. So, the difference is, intellectual property is things that you create. So it's something that you created, art, a conversation, whatever you do, photos, designs, whatever it is, it's your own intellectual property versus community property, which is actually assets that are acquired in a marriage, like the income, your personal property, or like real estate. So just to be clear on that, because I definitely don't want to, confuse people or make people think I don't know what the heck I'm talking about. Because sometimes we say things, we think one thing, but I'm out say another thing, right? That happens, right? So okay, just to clarify that. How y'all doing the Amazon blackout that started yesterday? Yeah, March 7th through March 14th. Y'all getting involved? Y'all staying away? This is, spearheaded by the same group I mentioned last week. And they're just keeping at it. I was looking at the what they were saying specifically. They were boycotting, which is Amazon. They also mentioned it: Amazon, Alexa, Amazon Prime, Kindle, Whole Foods, Amazon Fresh, Zappos, Ring, Audible, Twitch, MGM Studios, Goodreads, Woot, Hootie Who, I don't know what Woot is, IMDb, Amazon Basics, Amazon Essentials, Amazon Pharmacy, Amazon Go, Amazon Web Services, and the Washington Post. These are all included per the People's Union, USA.com. You can go to their website to get more information. But who's boycotting Amazon? I know we did the Blackout Friday, some of us. And like I said, that was easy for me to do. And it was a way to train myself that when I leave out to run errands, not to spend, just do what I need to do and come back home. So that's how I looked at it, And I know some people, there's a lot of pushback or whatnot, but who's not participating? Who's not using Amazon? I know some of us have to, and I understand that. But for those who don't have to and just choose it as a luxury, who's boycotting Amazon until the 14th? I haven't even canceled my account. I have a cousin. She when this stuff first happened with Elon, she canceled everything. You can find her on LinkedIn. That's it. That's it. You ain't gonna find her on Facebook. With with the association with these oligarchs or Instagram, and we all have to figure out what works for us, right? Because I was saying that when everybody was saying they were boycotting Target and how they weren't going to support Black products inside of Target, and I was saying, yeah, we saying all of that on Elon Musk social media or wherever we are. These things belong to the oligarchs at this time, but it is what it is. But just so you guys know, if you weren't aware, there is an Amazon boycott at this time. So again, there is a lot of things we can still do to push back. There are a lot of things we can do to, put our money where our mouth is and spend our money with people who respect us. There's different websites you can go to purchase items. I listed a lot of Black businesses before. I'll list them again if you're looking on the screen. Those are some of them. I also want to include other websites that I learned about, the Black Farmers Index. So you can actually go to the Black Farmers Index and find a local farmer in your area. For me, I went on, and the closest one I found were in California. Shout out to Bountiful. I think it's called Bountiful, and that's actually a farm that's owned by Khalees, who you guys may know is Nas's ex-wife. She also has a farm in Kenya, but there's lots of different farms listed. You can find something local to you that can be shipped to you, or maybe you can drive to the area. We have local gardens here in Las Vegas as well, in the historic West Las Vegas, so that's something else that people can consider. These are some of the places that do support us, just so you know. I'll post those on the screen as well for those of you who are watching. And also, there was another, the Black Farmers Index. Again, I wanted to mention that. You can also, if you want to find out more about, just get a breakdown of what's happening in the world. We're not going to get a lot into the politics. We're talking about good people. And some of y'all bad folks. We're going to talk about some good people today. And we want to know, I want to know, and I'm sure other people are interested as well, as who are you a good person? What do you consider a good person? But before we get into that, I just wanted to, talk about a bad person right quick. But if you want to know about what's going on in the world, as far as, national and globally, if you go to this website, again, it's it's justsecurity.org. A wealth of information, breaks down, different things that have to do with the federal layoffs, what's going on, just any articles that have been submitted, or anything that's been happening lately, and you kind of want to get an understanding of what's going on. If you go to this site, it will, give you a breakdown of all of that as well. So that's something you can go to. Shout out to GB, who's always first in the chat. I messes with you. Thank you. Yes. And and he's also adding that he didn't know about it, but he will hopefully, with all of the boycotts, it's not like a diet or a fast, right? Where we show discipline throughout the duration, yet, once it's over, yet we eat once reaching the set time. I'm reading this wrong. So anyway, let me start off. He says, I didn't know about it, but I will hopefully, with all of these boycotts, it is not a diet or a fast to where we show discipline throughout the duration, yet over each once reaching the set time goal. Amen to that. Definitely. And I don't, I was having a conversation. My son was mentioning that he said he was having a conversation with an elder, and we were talking about the blackout, or he kind of mentioned that she alluded to the fact that people are just going to end up just spending more after Friday or more before Friday. And I'm thinking, I don't think that should be necessarily the case. I think it's a time to train yourself. Some people say they don't believe in dieting because dieting is more like a fad, right? It's something you do for a set amount of time. But if you look at it as a lifestyle change, a way of living, then it becomes how you live. And so, in this same respect, we shouldn't look at this as dieting. We should look at this as a lifestyle change, a way of life, and how we are going to be living going forward, training our minds to not, maybe overspend. We need to start saving money. That's really important. We don't know what lies ahead. So we should be trying to save money for the most part, and training ourselves to go shop for companies that respect us as people. And so that's what it should be about. It shouldn't be about, oh, I'm just, going to be a team player and go with the flow. And then next, when it's over, I'm going to go buy all the things that I decided not to buy before. That's not what it's about. So I get, I get what you're saying in that respect. But hopefully that's not what it turns out to be. This is a time for us to improve ourselves. It's not about anybody else. It's about us, y'all. It's about us. It's all March 3rd, which I wasn't with you guys. I just want to let you guys know it was World Hearing Day. So World Hearing Day was established by the World Health Organization, that's WHO, in 2007 to raise awareness about hearing loss and deafness prevention, and is celebrated again on March 3rd worldwide, really globally. It's a big deal. So approximately 1.5 billion people experience hearing loss. The prevalence of hearing loss continues to increase with age, and where there's nearly 1 in 3 adults over the age of 60 who are affected, and 1 in every 2 adults that are older than 75 years old. And there are two primary types of hearing loss. It's called conductive and sensorineural. And conductive hearing loss typically occurs when sound waves are blocked or not transmitted effectively, often due to ear infections, earwax buildup, or eardrum perforation. The second type of is the sensorineural hearing loss, which occurs when there's damage to the inner ear, also known as cochlea, I could be mispronouncing it, or the auditory nerve. So this is a type of hearing loss. It is often linked to aging and excessive noise exposure. You guys, we put a lot of things in our ear, back in the day, 80s, 90s, early 2000s, we had them boom boxes listening to things loud. Now we have our beats in our ear. And for some of us, we're just born this way. Some of us just have hearing loss just because of the way our ears are set up. You know what I'm saying? So there's different things that cause hearing loss, and I like to bring attention to it because I think it's important for us to understand, because hearing loss is also linked to increased risk of cognitive decline, including dementia. So a hearing study published in the Journal of the American Medical Association showed that hearing loss is associated with dementia, severe hearing impairment, and associated with nearly 5 times the risk of developing dementia. So if you really don't hear very well and you're not having the proper equipment to be able to hear, because a hearing aid does help, then you may be on a decline, and it could cause some type of brain disease and brain damage. So it's important that you get your ears checked. And I'm talking to myself right now. I don't need nobody telling me nothing. Can't tell me nothing. But anyways, it's important to have the proper equipment for your ears so that you can at least maintain your brain strength and health. So furthermore, hearing loss is associated with a social isolation as well. It can cause depression and increase of falls. I'll be thinking about that now, because I've always said that I'm clumsy. So I don't know what that has to do with hearing, but anyway. And it could also cause marital spats. I mean, I put that in there. They didn't put that in there, but I'm just saying, if you hear somebody say one thing, but that's not what they really said, it could go down in the DMs. I'm just saying. But particularly it's among the elderly that there's hearing loss. But, my uncle used to say back in the day, even before we had these little earbuds that we put in our ears, just having the headphones and the big old speakers in the back of our vehicles, he would say that he was investing in hearing aids because all of us going to be deaf by the time in a few years. So he might have been on to something. I got to go look at the stock market and see how that works out. Yeah, shout out to GB. He said, I read that higher frequencies horns cause more damage to hearing than lower frequencies bass. Higher frequency. I can see that, because I've had somebody be so loud that my ear rang. But I don't know about the bass part. Maybe I kind of felt it in my stomach a little bit, but not in my ear. So you might be on to something. That's interesting. Yeah. Speaking of loss, y'all, it's hard to come on here and do this, every Saturday when it's just somebody so significant that I'm familiar with, and just dance to their music and just appreciate it to this day. To say that they passed away, but Dante Wiggins passed yesterday. He was a founding member from the 1980s of Tony Tone, compromising of his brother Raphael Sadiq, and also his cousin, Timothy Krishan Riley. So he passed away yesterday at the age of 64. I didn't know he was 64 years old. Holy smoke. Dang, he looked good. Dang, 64. That's amazing. But he had bladder cancer, and he was really battling. They reported for a year, his family did. And my condolences to his family. His presence will be missed. And I never got to see them together live. And I'm sad about that. I know they were planning a tour. They were getting some new music together and working on some things. And, time is not always on our side, but I hope that he's in a much better place, looking down at us and smiling and being um, rejoiceful. So yeah. And then it's also just thinking of loss and people that have passed away. This March 6th, because I wasn't with y'all. Okay, March 6th was Black Balloon Day, and that represents people who died due to overdose. Every year in the United States, thousands and thousands of people die from alcohol and drug overdose. In 2023 alone, more than 105,000. There were more than 105,000 overdose deaths. So that's down from 2021, which was 107. That was a peak of overdose deaths historically from them recording it, 107,000. And fentanyl seems to be the big issue. It's sad and it's scary because from what I understand about fentanyl, it's not like you buy fentanyl. I think they lace fentanyl in drugs to enhance it more so, and people get caught up. So if you're buying like cocaine, I don't know if they do that to marijuana, but like cocaine and other pharmaceuticals, they're lacing it. And y'all's president's out here talking about he wants to lock up the borders because of Canada, which is I think it's less than 1% of fentanyl coming from Canada, or when he put Mexico in and said they're bringing all the fentanyl here. But the truth is, the majority of border arrests for fentanyl are U.S. citizens being arrested for trying to bring fentanyl into the country. So, facts matter, and perceptions versus reality is a thing. And we're going to get into that too when we talk about good people and not so good people. But yeah, so nearly 71,000 of those overdoses in 2021 deaths involved synthetic opioids. And again, the primary one was fentanyl. Yeah, so fentanyl is now linked to 2/3 of the fatal drug overdoses in the U.S. I hope they get rid of that because that is so scary. We've lost some really good people, actors, personal friends, and family members due to this. It's just awful. It's awful. I want to ask this question again. I asked last week. I didn't get a reply, but y'all listening. I see you guys on Facebook, and I see you also in the YouTube. How many of you guys are feeling like your whole self? Like, do you really know what it is to be your whole self? Like, are you being all of who you are? Like, do you feel like your whole self, WHOLE, or do you feel like you're a whole self, like HOLE? And I'm channeling Dr. Robbins. If you guys don't know, she's a psychiatrist, therapist, and she uses that example when she talks about being your whole self versus your whole self. Again, WHOLE versus HOLE. Do you feel like you are all that you are every day in your life? Are you presenting yourself as who you are 100%? Or do you feel like there's something missing? There's a gap in all that you are? And I just want you guys to marinate on that. If you want to add to that or think about it, it's something I think about too. I can honestly say I don't think every day I show up as my whole self. I can speak for just me personally. In some situations, I've had to shrink myself. That's not being my whole self, or just holding back on what I want to say, or just not really being present. Like my mind is somewhere else and I'm thinking about other things and things of that nature. So I just want to try to marinate in that as we talk about if you're a good person, if you believe you're a good person and what it means to be a good person, and do you associate yourself with good people? And is that important to you? So also I wanted us to think about, when we're thinking about good people and what equates to a good person, like how long do you have to live to be a good person? When we're balancing out good versus bad, we're not perfect. We're not angels. We're humans. So we're not always going to do a good thing in life per se. So in some situations, you may do some things that may be considered bad, and you can determine for yourself what that means. But in the whole element of living your whole self and just being who you are you living these in increments? Are you being good? Like your first half of your life, were you really a good person? And then the second half, you were a bad person? And how does that balance out? Like, are you living your life in increments or, like in sections? I always joke about the fact that I sleep in increments. Like I get my 8 hours in. They say, a good healthy rest is at least, 7 to 8 hours of rest, but I get them in increments. So I'm gonna get my 3 or 4 hours, then I'm gonna wake up and I'm gonna do something for an hour or two, and then I'm gonna go to sleep, and I'm gonna get my other 3 or 4 hours. And that's what I mean by increments. So is that how you've lived your life? You've been good here, not so good here, and then when you add it up, all those increments, what did it come out to? Shout out to Marmac, who's in the chat, who says that he believes he's been his whole self. He believes my whole self contains holes. Damn. Yeah. Wow. So can you be whole if your whole self contains holes? Dang, let's marinate on that, y'all. Come on, let's add to that. Listen, I feel you on that. I do feel you on that. And I'm trying to think now, does that apply to me in any way? Are there some holes? You know what I'm saying? Like some of us think, shit don't stink, but the reality is nobody's perfect. So while we may think that we're being our 100%, there may be some holes. And what are those holes? How do we get those holes? Are those holes due to loss of people in our lives? Is that holes due to not being where we want to be in life, not having certain people in our lives the way we want to have them, not being able to express yourself the way you want to express yourself? Maybe you have an addiction, whatever that is putting holes inside of that whole person. So yeah, I like the way you came with that. So I feel you on that. And GB says, I approach every day with an attitude of gratitude. I heard that because I do the same thing. But there's definitely a void. So I try to avoid situations that could add to that void. I hear you. Like triggers, right? I hear you on that. And that's what I do. And really, when I feel the negative energy coming on, that's exactly what I do. I just say, thank you, God. And I look down and I got on my cute boots and my legs, put one foot in front of the other, and I can walk and move. I got a good bill of health. I'm able to take care of myself. I'm able to help others. Like there's so many positive things that I'm grateful for, because they say it could always be worse, right? And those are the things I try to focus on because nothing is perfect. And yes, there are some voids. I think all of us have experienced some level of voids, but can those voids ever be non-void? Can it come to the point where it's no longer voided that we can cash in on our whole self, or are we always going to be deficient of something where it's non-negotiable? I'm thinking of a check, y'all. We don't use checks no more, but all of this is I'm envisioning a check when I'm talking about this. So yeah. So yeah, I just wanted you guys to just marinate on that, just some self-reflection. It doesn't help when we're talking about this because self-reflection is asking that question to you. Do you feel like you're a good person? Do you think you're a good person? Do you tell yourself when you look in the mirror, you're a good person? Do you look at your life every day and say, there's some things I can do better. I don't think I'm not so good of a person. Or do you look at other people and say, that's not a good person? I mean, if we go into the political realm, we can point out a whole lot of not so good people. And we know why we would say they're not good people. If we think about the things that are affecting people by them losing their jobs, possibly losing their health insurance, paying more for medication, um, um, just all of the things, Social Security, losing their income, just a lot of things that are being affected by people. We would consider people who have made that possible not so good people. We would consider them bad people because I can't imagine good people would want to see any human suffer and not have what they need to get, through life day in and day out. So I definitely think that we all have our own perception of what we think good and bad is. And I just wonder, do you ever just think about that with yourself? Last week, we recognized Ramadan, which is still in effect to all of you Muslims. Respect to you. But it's now also Lent. Lent just took effect, and this goes on for 40 days. And for those of you who are not familiar, this is associated with the Christian religion. Ramadan is associated with the Islamic religion. And Lent begins each year on Ash Wednesday and is 46 days before Easter Sunday. So this year, Lent began, I should say, on March 5th, 2025. And if you're following the 40-day tradition, Lent will end on Holy Saturday, April 19, 2025. I'm gonna marinate on that for a minute because the next day is the 20th, and that's April 20th. And if you do it in whatever term that is, you do the 4/20/2025, it's 420. Y'all know what I'm talking about, right? Y'all know where I'm going with this? So let me get my Wendy Williams on real quick and sip my tea. So Lent ends the day before Easter begins. And speaking of Easter, are y'all buying eggs this year? Are we dying eggs? Or are people keeping with that tradition? I'm so curious. I'm so curious about that. Are we doing that? But again, Easter begins 420, which is also the day that we celebrate the plants. We celebrate cannabis. We celebrate weed on 420 as well. So kind of interesting, right? Kind of interesting. Um, Considering that. I just wanted to laugh about that for a minute, but let's get into it. But I also want to recognize Tasha. Thank you for joining me on Facebook in the chat. You know, I appreciate you for being here live with us. She said, "That's me, Toya. I'm my whole self with holes." Wow. I hold back in expressing myself and take punches that I would tell others not to. My whole self has holes. Okay. Marmac, you got somebody out there that's feeling you. I think I'm feeling you too, though. I get where you're coming from. I get where you're coming from. Definitely. We definitely got to marinate on that because my whole self, like, you know who you are as a whole person, but there are certain things that you take away, from yourself just in daily interactions. But when nobody's around, though, that's another question I have. When nobody's around, are we our whole selves? When we don't have to perform for anybody, when we don't have to shrink ourselves, when we don't have to hold back, when it's just us in a room by ourselves, however we are, naked, eating chips, just being by ourselves. Are we our whole selves in, or is there still holes? That's a question I have too. Thank you. Oh, thank you. I love you too. You know, I love you. Listen, you one of the realest. So for me, you be your whole self, but I can still understand how you still, like you said, in some places you still hold back, and it's decorum too, right? Maybe that comes on along with being a good person too. Like, we don't just say everything that we think or do everything we want to do. Because there's some people, if it wasn't, I'm not even going to say if there wasn't consequences, repercussions, and what they call the consequences and repercussions, that I wouldn't do certain things. I wouldn't do certain things. My top two reasons why I wouldn't do certain things is, one, because it's illegal and I might, I don't want to do the time, so I don't want to do the crime. And secondly, because I got to be able to sleep at night. And I don't know if some of the decisions I make out of anger, or what I think is a necessary thing, is what I want to live with, and y'all can marinate on that too. I love y'all in the chat. Thank you, GB, for interacting as well. He's adding to the conversation. He says, speaking on the subject of being a good person, I've done wrong to make it right. Whew. We got to marinate on that one, y'all. I've done wrong to make it right. I've done bad with good intent. I still go to war for peace. I am who I am. I'm thankful for who I am. Damn, that was a whole word. With a mic, I'm dropping the mic on that. Shit, that was, damn, okay. Listen, when we're talking about being a good person, he's saying that I've done wrong to make it right. I've done bad with good intent. And I still go to war for peace. I am who I am, and I'm thankful for who I am. I like that. And that's the main, out of everything that we do, the choices that we make, are you able to live with yourself at the end of the day? And, we, as good people, that could be a struggle. That could be a struggle because we always want things to be copacetic. We need balance. We need to know that God is proud, that we make God proud when in every decision we make. That's a good person's thought, I imagine. At least that's how I think when I think about just having peace, because I know pleasing God is going to allow me to rest well. And rest is important. Rest affects everything, your health. Your eyes, they be puffy. You know what I'm saying? So it's a lot that goes into that. It's a lot that goes into that. And then you have on the flip side of that, people who are not good people, whether they recognize themselves that or not, they probably get a good, nice rest after they do some real foul shit. You know what I'm saying? Do they recognize it as foul, or do they not care? I mean, when I think about the devil and his wicked ways, I don't think it really matters because there's no conscience. Good people, I feel like, have a conscience. So even if they are making bad decisions or doing what they got to do to survive, you think about a good person who's hungry, for example, right? Like, you don't have any money, so you steal a sandwich from a store. Does that make you a bad person? You know what I'm saying? So when you're doing bad things for the greater good, you got to live, right? Nobody was harmed, okay? It affected the budget, but nobody was harmed, right? Marmac says, nonetheless, even a strainer has value. Yeah, everything has value. Everything has value indeed. Yeah. Joshua said she's tired of holding back. I don't know. Is it necessary? Like, do you feel like what you say they don't care either, right? But let me ask you this: when you say you're tired of holding back, do you think it would make a difference for you to just be your whole self, to fill in them holes and say what you're thinking at the time, or do what you think is the best? Is that going to benefit you, your future, your family, your well-being, your rest? Like, those are the kind of things that you have to also consider as well, I would imagine, as people who have conscious and understand the consequences and repercussions of their actions. Like, is it worth it? Is what I'm saying. Is it worth it? Let me put my down to a sit and reverse it. Anyway, I'm having fun. So yeah. So again, we were talking about Lent. We're talking about good people. We're talking about people who aren't so good. Again, Easter is on 420. Maybe we'll get back into this conversation closer to Easter around that time. I'm not sure where that falls as far as In Your Ear Radio on Saturdays, 2 p.m. West, 5 p.m. East every Saturday. I pull up for y'all because I love y'all. I love y'all. Yeah, something to marinate on, right? But yeah, just thinking about Lent, the similarities with Islam and Lent, are quite, when I look at different religions, I see a lot of similarities. For example, during this time, there's a holy water. I mean, holy water. I'm gonna get into I'm gonna get into that. But during this time, this is a time for Christians to reflect, right? To get more in tune to the Bible, to fast, to be of service to people. So doing things that will be pleasing in the eyes of God, all positive things. And we talked about that with Islam as well and Ramadan. But just thinking about the fact that, this whole cycle of having Lent around the same time of 420, I'm gonna bring a little levity into this, okay? is it made me think about something like, we think about the oil that we use. I remember my grandmother used to put it on my forehead. We think about the ways we use that oil, and there was, rumor has it, let me get my Wendy Williams on, 'cause I'm about to gossip. Rumor has it that Jesus indulged in cannabis and he used it. They said in the Old Testament, that's the Bible, cannabis is referred to in Hebrew as kane bosom. And I might be mispronouncing that, kane bosom. And it's a key ingredient in the holy anointing oil, which according to Exodus 30, chapter 30, verse 20, 20 through 23, calls for 9 pounds of cannabosum, 6 quarts of olive oil, in addition to myrrh, and I don't know what that is. Also cinnamon and cassia. Now I think I use a form of cassia now, and I think it's used for digestion. But in fact, the word Christ means the anointed one. So we think about that oil that people put on their head, Ash Wednesday, people put the ash on their forehead. That would have been on the 5th to celebrate Ash Wednesday or to commemorate. And then we think about that oil. And so this was interesting to me. This was a man, I got a quote. I was reading an article that came out in 2017. It was called the Jane Street article. But this quote is from Adam Umansky. He's a co-founder of a cannabis church tree-based ministry. It's called Cannabis Church Tree-based Ministry. And he says, if Jesus laid his hands on lepers, we know the leprosy could be cured by cannabis. When he cured the blind man, I personally think of people with glaucoma who put CBD on their eyes and say, oh my God, it works. And I'm just like, is he high? Was he high when he wrote that? But it also made me think of Pastor Cleaver, who was actually Bernie Mac in Friday, right? Remember when he came up to Craig and them tomorrow, he needed something for his cataracts? I'm just saying, I'm just putting two and two together. Okay, I'm just saying the cannabis. And there are studies that show that this does benefit, right? So I'm just thinking Easter 420, did Jesus use cannabis? Do y'all believe he did? And again, I like to bring a little levity because laughter is good, right? Laughter brings forth the endorphins, and that's what cannabis can do for you. But they call it something else now. They used to say that cannabis had an endorphin ingredient in it, but it's actually called endocannabinoids. So it's similar to what endorphins do. It causes relaxation, it relieves pain, gives you a feeling of happiness and overall good mood. So it's nothing wrong with laughing. And based on what cannabis can do. I mean, it might not be nothing wrong with that either. Shout out to the endocannabinoids and endorphins. Okay, okay. So yeah, so Lent is on, and just for you guys may not know why they do Lent for 40 days. It's associated with Jesus, 40 days of fasting and temptation in the wilderness, Moses spending 40 days on Mount Sinai, receiving the 10 commandments, Elijah's 40-day journey to Mount Orb, and 40 days of rain during the great flood, and the Israelites 40 years of wandering in the desert. So that's why it's done for 40 days. And again, shout out to y'all. So these religions have very unique practices, and yeah. So again, just thinking of good people, like when you look in the mirror and you ask yourself, do you feel like it? I remember having a conversation with a young lady, and we were just, talking about kids and whatnot. And she was just, having a conversation and just saying, that she told me she thought that I was a good mom. And I was like, that's nice of you to say. I said, I would never say that I was a good mom, because I could think of all the things I could have done differently to be a better mother. My son's in his 30s now. I know it's weird how he 30 and I'm 30. That's just crazy, right? But, so I never give myself those credits and accolades. I always say I did my best and I had good intentions. And so if that adds up to me being good, I'll let you tell me that. And that's how I look at that. Like if your actions should be something that other people can see, and then it mirrors back to you, or they tell you. It's not you telling them, because once you tell them, it's like, why you got to tell me though? Why you got to tell me? My eyes, I got seeing eyes. So yeah, that's something to think about. But even just thinking about do-gooders and people being good, there's a couple of movies that I watched. One was Homestead. We just finished that. It was an actual movie, but it looks like it's going to be a series, like a movie, like a part 2. If you guys haven't seen it, it's on Hulu. I encourage you to watch it. Again, Homestead. And it was showing what good people are capable of. That's how I looked at it. So it was just like these people had a whole bunker, a compound. They lived on a whole lot of land, and the world was ending per se. And they had gardens, food, and everything they could to maintain, but they had to calculate, the number of people they could maintain on this land. And so there were people outside of their gates that wanted in, and even people within the city that couldn't get access, including like officials. There were people, government officials, I would say commissioners, mayors, governors, or whoever. I don't know specifically who came for him, but somebody came for him for hoarding food. And again, he was a prepper. He planned for this. So he was a good person. He had medics. He had everything they needed to maintain during whatever was going on in the world, but they couldn't help everybody. So they were at some point turning friends away because they just couldn't afford it, because then they would run out of food. But it just talks about, my takeaway from it was the goodness of people. And I encourage y'all to watch that. On the flip side of that, I watched Paradise. And that was starring Sterling K. Brown. I know that's a big buzz. I know a lot of you guys have probably watched that. So I encourage you, if you haven't, to go watch Paradise. I just finished the 8th episode, and I hope it's a 9th. I can't tell if that was a series finale, but if it is, I need season 2 to hurry up, because I'm with it. I'm so with it. I love sci-fi movies. I like post-apocalyptic movies. And yeah, shout out to Tracy. Yes, it's lit, ain't it? Ooh, I love it. And that's something I could watch with my sweetie, because we don't always watch the same things, but we like to spend quality time together. And that's one good way to get our snacks in and just sit up there. And then, of course, he like to talk, on the sidebar, y'all. He be talking. So we end up talking about life, stuff during it. But dang, why people got to talk? I just need to know, why y'all got to talk through movies? We can't hear. Remember, I don't hear that good. So I need to be listening and reading the captions. You talking to me, I can't focus.com. Tweet it. But anyway, Paradise is really good. And again, it's, to me, the flip side of it shows what bad people are capable of. There's a woman there who built a whole underground city in lieu of, again, the demise of the world, or maybe the country. And whenever people speak of her, when, it's, oh, she's a mom. They literally say she's a mom. And then we know that I'm not going to give away all of it on neither one of these. I'm not going to give away all of it, but she lost a child as well. So there's a lot of sympathy and empathy for her. So they don't look at her as a bad person. But again, she built this whole underground world only to house, I think, 25,000 people. So the rest of the world is left outside. And they're being told that those people couldn't make it. We couldn't get them here. They're not telling them because the population won't hold. And I think that was just her decision. But they're telling people in the underworld Think of the underworld. We got a real underworld here. We call it something else when you pushing, doing stuff. When you under the radar where Uncle Sam can't catch you. But anyway, this underworld is just a whole new world. A whole new world. It's a song. What was it? Anyway, y'all know Peabo Bryson and somebody else. Oh, Gina, what's her name? Regina Bell. Whole new world. It's a whole new world. Sing the song with me. And so they are living underground and calling this woman a good woman. But if you watch it, you'll see that, I don't know, everybody got their perception of what good is, and we're going to get into perception and reality. But yes, I encourage you to watch Paradise. One of the things I found interesting was I remember seeing an article that talked about China had a fake sun. So you guys go research that. China actually has a sun, reportedly, allegedly, that duplicates the actual sun that we have in the universe, that's in the atmosphere. So yeah, it's interesting. I just thought about that because underground, they control day and night. So it reminds me of the Truman Show per se. And these people forget that they are underground, or maybe they don't know. I'm not sure, but without giving away too much. Yeah. So yeah, it's really interesting. Shout out to Trey. He says, I think it's some symbolism with how they treat Sinatra versus how she really is. Yes. Like, we just, you consider her a good person because she's a mom and she lost a child. You're not considering all the things she's done and did in order to have the world she wants, not the world that's best for all people. That would be, I would think, pleasing to God, but the world she wants. But she's able to get away with this because they say she's a mom. They literally, that's the first thing that comes out of their mouth when they defend her. She's a mom. And then the empathy comes from the fact that she's also still grieving the loss of her son. But I'm not with that mess. Yes, it's very subjective. I agree. But yeah, so go check that out too. When I was looking into this movie, I went to look to see if there were any other places called Paradise. And what I found very interesting is, and I think I should know this, and maybe I do, and maybe I just forgot, because like I told y'all, as my mother would say, you forget your head if it wasn't on your shoulders. Maybe I just forgot. You know what I'm saying? But I always encourage you guys to learn something new every day. So I'm going to say I learned something new today. A lot of things, but here's one of them. Paradise, there is a place called Paradise outside of this movie called Paradise, which is a fictitious town made for people underground. In Nevada, we also have a place called Paradise. Did y'all know that? It's in Las Vegas, actually. I mean, I know that's kind of confusing, but it's literally adjacent to the Las Vegas area. It's consists of the Harry Reid International Airport. Is called Paradise. The UNLV, University of Nevada, Las Vegas, and the Las Vegas Strip. They say it's considered a tourist attraction in the Las Vegas area, and it excludes downtown. So downtown is not part of Paradise, but it's actually called Paradise. These areas that I'm describing to you. However, all the Paradise addresses, as well as other unincorporated areas in the Las Vegas Valley, have Las Vegas addresses. So I don't know anybody who writes their letters or bills and puts Paradise. But I just learned that Paradise, Nevada is a thing. And the population, according to the census, is roughly over, it's under 200K now. It was more so, it was greater in a few years back. It was a little over 200K. But comparing that to the whole Las Vegas population, that's excluding North Las Vegas. Las Vegas has 640,000 plus people. North Las Vegas, 260,000 plus people. And Henderson is 317,000. So this area of Paradise, again, is a little bit under 200,000. And they call this the Harry Reid University, Nevada area with a strip. That's called Paradise. Okay, y'all learned something new, okay? Anyways, another interesting thing is the racial makeup of Paradise is 59.8% white, 10% African-American, 0.8% Native American, 9.5% Asian, 1% Pacific as Islander, and 5.5% from 2 or more other races. Hispanic or Latino residents made up 32.2% of the population, 46.3% of the population was non-Hispanic white. So that's interesting, right? That's interesting. I just wanted to share that with y'all. But do you think you're a good person? I need to know. How do you feel about yourself? Do you really think that you're a good person? And do you surround yourself with good people? Do you know what it is to be a good person? Like, for example, what do you think people would say about you when the curtains close? Do you think it would be all positive? And I know when people go, we all kind of take the high road and we think of all the good. It could be a serial killer. And we'd be like, yeah, he was nice to my dog. Yeah, he killed 20 people, but he was nice to my dog. He always fed the dog when I was away. But in actuality, what will people say about you? Do you think overall they would say that you're a good person, that you did well, that you served your community, or what would they say about you? I'm just curious what you would think. If I asked myself that overall, I think I have my things I would say. I think overall people would have positive things to say about me. They would definitely say that I was feisty and a fighter, willing to help. But you just never know. You'd be surprised what people really, really think about you, because this is what I think about me. So I just imagine that that's what I'm bringing forth. That's what other people see, but other people have their own perceptions and their own reality. And definitely, we're going to get into perceptions and reality. So, um, yeah, do you care what people think? Do you care that whether or not you're a good person? What actions do you make to show your goodness? Like, what do you think makes you a good person? Acts of service do you do? Like, do you lend your bed to someone who may be unhoused? Do you feed the home unhoused? Do you look out for others? Do you check in on the elderly? Do you? I don't know. You guys tell me what you consider a good person. Just put something in the chat that you think makes a person a good person. Yeah, I'm just curious to know. Do you let people over in traffic? You know what I'm saying? And then if somebody lets you over, do you give them a wave? Because I feel like if you don't give a wave, there's something wrong with you. You might not be a good person. Because who don't say thank you? But I have to let you in, and now I wish I didn't. I'm just saying.com. So I just wonder, like, do you speak up for other people? Remember being in school and you saw kids being bullied or picked on because they had holy shoes or dusty clothes, or their mama looked a certain way, or their daddy did a certain thing and they got teased. Did you speak up for those people? Would that make you a good person? If you spoke up for that person and defended someone who wasn't in a position to defend themselves, do you treat people with dignity and respect? I think that's one of the main things of being a good person, is treating people with dignity and respect. I saw a post or a meme a while ago that says, I look at how the people treat the waiter. And I said, amen to that, because, I was even seeing a post. It was a famous woman, a white woman, and they associated with some famous entertainer, actor. I don't know the names. I didn't know who they were, but obviously they're famous. But she was dating or in a relationship with a Hispanic man, Mexican man, or Latino. And she was at a valet and she was going in and she was telling him, oh, that's why you're getting deported and you're Mexican. And I don't know what she was mad about. And then she went up to the main valet and she was like, yeah, whatever. I'm rich and you're poor. And they was like, no, you poor mentally. I'm just paraphrasing. And I was like, people really think they somebody because they got money. Like, really, you're not a good person to me. I really wrote her off because I've been mad and I've said some things that I necessarily wouldn't say when I wasn't mad, but they probably was true for the most part. I just do shout out to Tasha, be holding back. You know what I'm saying? Trying to be diplomatic and keep some decorum in the room. But if I say it, I probably meant it. But so I look at it the same way this lady did when she was going off on these people saying, I got more money than you, you're rich, you're not going to be better than you. Like, she equated her finances with her being better than him. I'm like, and he said, no, you're poor. Like, I forgot exactly how he said it, but he said what I would have said to her, like, you child, you like a wet food stamp at this point. That's your value. So, how you treat the waiter, like, you think just because you have money or you're in a position of power, you feel comfortable talking crazy to people. I don't feel comfortable talking crazy to anybody unless they're talking crazy to me. Then yeah, we might match energies, or I might just have to put you in your place. But I'm very welcoming. I'm cordial. I don't want any problems. I want people to feel comfortable. And I know everybody's working hard to make a living no matter what kind of job they do. Matter of fact, thank you for being a waiter, because damn, who would be serving me if you weren't? You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it's a lot. And yeah, so Trey is saying that I think being a good person is something you measure like success. It is different for everyone based on perception. Hey, let's get into that perception and reality. I agree. Shout out to Icarice, who's also adding to the chat on Facebook. She says, someone with great moral integrity and good positive light energy. Yes, I think that's a good person too. Absolutely. Someone with great moral integrity and a positive light energy. Yeah, somebody who just see you and be like, oh, hi, you look good. Sometimes people can say the sweetest thing and you're not expecting it. And it just makes your day. It makes you feel good, and you spreading that good energy, I think, has a lot to do with your good qualities. I don't see anybody evil being that nice. I don't see anybody who's really a bad person being able to even come at it with the goodness that E. Carice is saying. uh, Tracy is also saying, I do think there are some base with moral ground, with a moral ground. But yeah, like, yeah, you got to have some level of morals. You got to have some level of morals and integrity. Tasha's also saying that I think a good person is someone that truly loves and understands themselves. They can, uh, she said, truly loves and understands themselves. Then they can, with others. That's true too. I don't know if that would make you a good person though, because like if you know you a serial killer and you a white beater, you know that's who you are, and you accept that. Does that make you a good person? And we could just be different. We could be like yin and yang. But I feel what you're saying. Do good people gossip? Do good people judge? Are good people mean? And how are you particular? Are you intentional about surrounding yourself with good people? Or do you have a lot of bad people around you too that you know are bad or you think are bad? Like, I wonder how that goes. Um, I also want to know, are dog owners good people? And I'd say that from perspective of people who breed dogs, people who have dogs. Listen, I just have just a natural love in my heart for living things, like from the plants to the trees to animals. I'm not a pet owner. I don't ever want to have a pet, but I still have a certain level of love for pets. And I think that they should be treated right, whether they my pet or somebody else's pet. But I also think about how pets are bred. And I think about, associating it with slavery, how, and I know I'm a human being and the dog is a dog, but hear my perspective. And I'm going to play a clip that kind of speaks to where I'm coming from as well, from a comedian who spoke to this as well. But people that breed animals, like, you love that dog, you know what I'm saying? That's, you call that your baby, your son, your daughter, and you made it with another one, and then they have a litter, and then you just give them off to strangers and sell them or whatever, give them away or sell them, whatever it may be. And I always imagine, how does that dog feel? You know, and maybe that's just life, but I have that little sensitivity about me, and I always wonder about that, how you can call your pet your family member when you're selling off their family members, and I equate that and associate that with slavery. Um, so I wanted to play this clip um, that speaks to what I'm saying about good people and our dog lovers, good people. And every dog lover don't fall into this category, obviously, but just something to marinate on and to think about. So let me just pull this up right quick, and y'all tell me what y'all think.
Remember, no matter what, we will always see things differently. Like, for example, are there any dog lovers in here? Any pet people? You see? You see how they're clapping and shit? They think they're good people. But what is a dog's life before you own it? What? It's out there in the world doing its thing just the way God intended. That somebody calls a dog catcher comes, captures the dog, takes it to the pound, throw it in a cage, then you go down there, buy it, take it home, and make it do whatever you want it to do. That's the plot to the movie Roots. There that is. Why is it different? Why are you better? Why? Because you dress the dog up? Is that what it is? Let me guess, you put it in unfamiliar clothing? Give it a name in your language? Then the dog finally gets enough courage to run away and get its freedom. And what do? Put wanted posters all over the neighborhood. I'm sorry, lost posters. Because the dog must be lost. There's no way it would run away from my love.
I don't know. You picking up what he put down? And that's kind of my perspective, though. And we could laugh at it. I definitely have a sense of humor. I could laugh at serious things, and I could laugh at things that are not so serious. And I could take it with a grain of salt. So that's kind of where I'm coming from when I talk about pets and things of that nature. Like, when you really put things into perspective, are you really a good person? You dog owners, I'm just asking. Yeah, I just put y'all in the conversation. But let's get into it. Talking about perceptions and reality. Shout out to Tracy who brought it up. And I definitely want to get into it. Just to get an understanding, because what's good to you may not be good to everybody. You know, your perception of what good is may not be the reality. And the difference between perception and reality is, for example, when I was watching the movie Paradise, the woman who built these underground worlds was respected by some because she, again, was a mother and lost a child. Um, but there was literally someone who was, and so she was considered, you know, they had a soft spot for her. But the man who was a man who was actually trying to bring light to what was actually happening in the world, he was considered the villain because he was a man and I guess he didn't have any losses, but he was part of her team. But really, he was trying to fight to, you know, to stop her. And so he was looked at, even though in reality, he was a good guy per se. And I'm not giving away who, what, when, where, but there was a good guy who was looked at as a villain. And then there was the bad guy who was looked at as, you know, someone to have empathy for. And so it's perception and reality, right? So when we think about that, perception refers to how people interpret and make sense of information from their environment, while reality refers to the actual state of things. So factors such as past experiences, cultural background, and personal biases can influence perception. Reality exists independently of perception. So another example is, think about how you might, you know, growing up watching TV and saw rundown neighborhoods, and all you saw was in these rundown neighborhoods was crime and poverty and just all things bad. And so when you come into that environment, your perception is this is a bad environment. But then you get into it, you get involved in the community and the environment, and your reality comes to find out that there are educated people in these communities. These people are community oriented, they're righteous people. There is no crime or very low crime, and it's not what your perception was. The reality is totally different. The reality is fact based. You can prove it versus what you've been taught and programmed to believe. Yeah. So shout out to the comedian. I can't even, I don't got his name, but yeah, he put it into perspective, right? And that's how I think. You know, talking about dog owners. Like, I'm not judging you. I'm not wagging my finger at you guys that are pet owners, but I'm just telling you how my brain works. Like, I'm real sensitive to that level. But that's just me. But again, just talking about perception and reality. And so, you know, one's perception of what good is based on their life experiences, right? Based on what they've been taught and led to believe versus a reality of what good really is. So what is good? You know, do you really consider yourself to be good? And I did say that if you have to tell somebody that you're good, you know, look, I believe, you know, you can be a good person and acknowledge it. You can say, hey, I am a good person, and acknowledge that you're a good person, but you shouldn't have to tell people this. They should be telling you. Agree or disagree? I remember watching a show. It was Married at First Sight, and it was a lady, and she aggravated me because she, you know, they match people up with strangers. They literally get married the first time they meet each other. They're getting married, and so obviously she wasn't attracted to the guy. A psychic told her it would be a different guy with a tattoo, and so she wasn't feeling this guy. But you know, she treated him in a way that I was like, dang, you know what I'm saying? She could be a little nicer. Like, I could see how you would treat the waiter lady, and so she just kept saying over and over, I'm a good person. I'm a good person. I'm a good person. I'm like, no, you ain't. You ain't done nothing good. And I know they edit and cut in this fake reality TV or whatever, but based on what I see, my perception, you're not. And by you having to tell me this, lets me know that you're trying to convince me. So you know, just so I can look the other way, maybe. We can talk about that when we talk about y'all's presidents and politics, but we're not going to get too much into that. But we can definitely tie that in to what we're talking about when we talk about good versus bad and people being good. But you know, when you start having to tell people that you're a good person, that falls along the line of narcissism. You know what I'm saying? And again, we can associate that to y'all's president and people in leadership roles who rob from the poor and give to the rich. You know, reverse Robin Hood type shit they doing. We can associate that to the political world and our real world that we live in. But just internalizing it, just thinking about our day-to-day life, the people we interact with, our family members, our friends, people we choose. Because it's one thing to have friends, family, but friends are people we choose to be our family. And so we we get the pick of the litter, right? It's like going into the garden and you can, check it and see if it's plump, if it's right, versus, baby sister just was born, baby brother just born, and it is what it is, versus being able to pick. So there's a difference. So when you're picking people, what are you looking for? Do you see the signs of them being quality, good person versus not being a good person? And again, if somebody's telling you who they are, they're always pumping themselves up. You see a lot of salespeople doing it. And I'm not categorizing or putting you guys in a category of being narcissists, but a lot of these salespeople are, because they just pump it up like how great they are, to gaslight people, to make you believe that there's something that they probably ain't. Because again, if you are that, if you selling like that, it shows. You ain't gotta say it, okay? It just shows. It ain't nothing you gotta say. My representative is my actions, per se. And shout out to Ikaris, she says they just born like that. And I wonder, yeah, I do believe that though. I think you just come into the world like that. But I also think that your environment has a lot to do with it. Entitlement, I always say with y'all presidents, let me just say something ignorant, y'all. I just feel like he needs to get dropped off in the hood somewhere and get jumped. Because I feel like he ain't never got beat up. That's why he act like that. I don't condone violence publicly, but I'm just saying some people, just in general, they act a certain way because they are not used to consequences and repercussions. And sometimes getting smacked up kind of puts things into perspective, because people don't want to get smacked up. So when they realize that, just running your mouth, just running up a toll, could result in something a little bit more, because people don't be want to hear that, and people don't be want to be treated a certain way. And they're gonna, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So you might get something that you're not really expecting. I just feel like you can tell who ain't been chastised. That's all I'm saying. And so I think some people need to be chastised. But she said, Carissa said, I was responding to you saying they folks just be born and you can't pick them. Yeah. Well, I mean, when it comes to family, yeah, they just born. They're just born. And so good or bad, it is what it is. They're still family, But as far as friends, you don't have to, they're not, you go and bring them into your life. You know what I'm saying? It's not like y'all share the same name or the same daddy or the same mama. You go and bring them people into your life. So yeah, they are just born. Either way, there are people who are born, but on one end, they're born into a family that you necessarily may not have a choice. She said you can't even throw them back. I mean, you might not be able to throw them back, but you can kind of, roll your boat to the other side of the island on them. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So narcissists, are people who are going to tell you, they're going to gaslight you and make you believe they are something that I would say 99.99999% they're not, because there's no absolutes in the world, right? So they'll tell you they're a good person. And there was a lady who was talking about this too, but it's really a personality disorder, being narcissistic. And it's a mental health condition in which people have an unreasonably high sense of their own importance. You know what I'm saying? They need and seek too much attention and want people to admire them. People with the disorder may lack the ability to understand or care about the feelings of others. But behind this mask, y'all, of extreme confidence, because they come off like they got it all together, they are not sure of their self-worth and are easily upset by the slightest criticism. Don't that sound like some of y'all's president? You know what I'm saying? He always talking about how many viewers, how many people were present. Like, he don't care about life, like life-changing events. He cares about who was present, who's praising him. And yeah, he's a prime example of a narcissist. And I'm sure you guys know maybe some that personally that fit that mirror. But there was a lot of I was looking at a lot of people explain. There was one psychologist talking about narcissism, and I like the way she put it. Pretty much what I said, but I'll just let you hear her and what she said.
Hey y'all, real quick. If somebody keeps telling you that they are a good person, what I'm finding is that one or two things may be happening. One, they are actually not a good person, but they're trying to convince you that they are so that they can get in your good graces and then act a fool. Two, maybe they feel like they're not good enough and they're trying to convince you that they are, and they hope that you'll see that they are indeed a good person and that you will not abandon them because they are a good person, because they believe that being good enough or being a good person gets people to stay around for them. Just my observations.
Just her observation. Now, I don't know. I think you started stuff now because I got some Geminis that I rock 100% with. You know what I'm saying? I'll fight you over a Gemini. I don't know where you're coming from, but I get you. You know, some Geminis out there, you know what I'm saying? But look, I rocks with them. But yeah, a narcissist, a whole narcissist. And it's just what it is. It's just what it is. Some of the symptoms of these people who have this disorder, being a narcissist, they're being like overly boastful, exaggerating their own achievements. You hear people just bragging on what they did. I ran a relay, I won, pretending to be superior to others. You see that with people, like I said, that how you treat the waiter. You know, you think you better because you have money that makes you something special. You lack empathy for others, looking down on others as inferior, monopolizing conversation. You see that a lot where people won't let you talk when you're having a conversation with somebody and they're not listening. I know a lot of times we get anxious and a lot of times we just got to get it out. I know when I'm with my group of girls, especially in our book club, we all got a lot to say. And sometimes we talk over each other respectfully. You know, sometimes we say, you know, we even have tools we use, timers. So we try to give everybody equal time. It's all about that equity, right? Diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we want everybody to feel, you know, included in the conversation. But, you know, sometimes that's not the case as we want to get stuff out. I'm not talking about situations like that. I'm talking about people who just talk over you, don't let you get your point out. They're not trying to get your, they don't want your point of view to be added into the ingredients that they cooking in a pot. You know what I'm saying? What they stirring. They don't want your ingredients in there. And so they're always going to talk over you and try to dominate the conversation and, you know, control the direction of the conversation. They're impatient, sometimes angry, unhappy, depressed, or have mood swings when they're criticized, like they can't take it. You know what I'm saying? When people tell them about themselves, you know, now they got to go around people to boost up their ego and tell them good things. And those are called yes men. I think Kanye suffers from that. Y'all know the rapper. Easily disappointed when expected importance is not given. You know what I'm saying? They're looking for, you know, they might have thought they did a damn good job on something. People just like, yeah, no. And then they like feel a certain way. You know what I'm saying? And in those cases, they want to get you back. You know, some people run for president and they go into office and they get you back. You know what I'm saying? For whatever they felt that you did to them to make them feel any of these ways that are symptoms of narcissism. Or you just have a very fragile self-esteem. You know what I'm saying? And that's what it is. And so it's just something to think about when we're talking about good versus bad. Are you a good person? And just reflecting on who you are. Are you a good person? Do you think you're a good person? Do you reflect that in your day-to-day life? Do you think that your family and friends see you as that? Do they understand the decisions you made? Shout out to GB. He just said something so profound that I just want to reflect on it again. Just talking about the makings of a good person. And so I want to get back to that. What he said. And I just really think that kind of sums up, you know, with some people who are good, because again, nobody's perfect. Sometimes we have to do things that may be considered bad for the greater good. And he said, speaking on the subject of being a good person, you know, some of us may do wrong to make it right, or you may do bad with good intent. And you still go to war for peace. And that's the main thing, right? We still go to war for peace, you know, which means there's going to be collateral damage. Good, innocent people, lives may be taken, not intentionally, but for the greater good. And not any good person wants that to happen, but that's just the world we live in. And then to know at the end of the day by him just saying he's thankful for who he is, that's important to be able to rest at night. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, I imagine some real bad people probably sleep real good at night too in their drawers and their boxes or whatever. But us good people, it is a necessary element. Like we need to be able to sleep well at night and only have night sweats when we perimenopausing and or we just hot. Okay. There's a young man, I wanted to bring him up. I thought I had his name here. I did have his name and now I don't have it in front of me. But nonetheless, he at the time, I think he's like 17 now, but at the time that he made this particular song, he appeared to be maybe around 12 years old, just looking at him, definitely a preteen. And he had a song that related to good people. And I want to play that as well. And I'm just going to play some of it, maybe not all of it, but I want you guys to get a listen.
Why can't everybody just love? The kind that was exemplified and sent from up above. Don't know about everybody else, but I know about me. Just wanna live my life and see that God is proud of me. Look, honestly, I just wanna be a good person. Tell me why there's people that love to see people hurting. Tell me why there's people that love to see people bleed. Why can't we just learn from the horrific things we seen? Be glad that you won't know it easily could be. If I say something wrong, then here is my apology. Just wanna spread a message that everybody should hear. It shouldn't be a goal to leave anybody in tears. We should build each other up instead of tearing each other down. Instead of getting shady when some people come around. I looked inside my life and I really like what I found. My life is really good because the people that I surround myself with laugh, joke, play around, love each other just as it should be. Regardless of my race, all of my friends accepted me for me. This is how the world should be. Why can't it just be like this? Guess we'll just observe the improvements until our stories end. Yeah.
And that's a kid. That's a kid understanding what good is, what good people are, and how good people affect change, affect the environment, affect the world we live in. And he's trying to understand why. Now, I don't know how he feels today. I kind of went to his page and tried to see if he was still on that same business, but I can't. I'm not going to judge him at this point. But that was his perspective as a preteen. You know what I'm saying? And he wrote about it, wrote a song about it, like to hear it. Okay. So some of the traits of good people, again, are people with empathy, integrity, generosity, respect, fairness, responsibility, upstanding. Those are morals, right? Those are important things. And those are the kind of people that I think good people should want to surround themselves with. If you're opposite of that, you know what I'm saying? If you're a person that lacks empathy, lacks integrity, you're stingy and selfish, disrespectful, not fair to people, and irresponsible, not so good to have in your life, because you're going to be affected by that. So I think good people have a good judge of character too, just because it takes one to know one, right? It takes one to know one. So you can recognize that about people and then realize that this person is someone who's allowed to be invited in your life, because everybody, I don't care if they were born into the family, or that you picked them as a friend, you can pick them out. How they put in, you can put them out, so that's something that, is a good thing, that we have the ability to be able to do that and to understand the goodness that we have and how to maintain the goodness in an environment. Just speaking of goodness, before we get up out of here, I just want to recognize Women's History Month. Listen, I love my brothers too, so I definitely want to shine on them as well. But since it is Women's History Month, I'm just going to plug in some of the great women who I consider good people, based on what I've heard about Mother Teresa. She was a founder of the Order of Missionaries of Charity, a Roman Catholic congregation of women dedicated to helping the poor and the sick. She was considered one of the 20th century's greatest humanitarians. She canonized Saint Teresa at the Calcutta in 2016. And in 1979, Mother Teresa received the Nobel Peace Prize for her humanitarian work. She died in September 1997 and was beatified, which is basically saying that it's a Latin term for blessed, but it's basically saying when you're beatified, from what I understand, is you can use her name in prayer. So just kind of let that sink in. But she was beatified after her death in 2003. So she has recognition from the Catholic Church of a deceased person's entrance into heaven and capacity to intercede on behalf of individuals who pray in her name. So that's what beatified means. So yeah, that's interesting. But Mother Teresa, Harriet Tubman, that's my girl right there. And she's an American abolitionist. Harriet Tubman is best known for her efforts to move the enslaved to liberation in the Underground Railroad. She had a network of anti-slavery activists. Her legacy is undeniable in the movement to abolish slavery, as she is documented to have approximately made 13 to 19 trips, arguably, through the Underground Railroad, leading dozens of slaves to freedom, and was never caught. Yeah, God got her, despite the $40,000 reward for her capture. Tubman is also the first Black woman to serve in the military after helping the Union Army during the Civil War. And also, I want to recognize Shirley Chisholm. Yeah, she's really dope. She's really dope. First Black woman to be elected to the United States Congress in 1968, a native of Brooklyn, New York, Shirley Chisholm served 7 terms in Congress and made inroads by helping to expand the food stamp program. She also introduced legislation to benefit racial and gender inequality and became a founding member of the Congressional Black Caucus in 1972. Chisholm made history again as the first Black candidate to seek the nomination for President of the United States and the first woman to bid for the Democratic Party's presidential nomination. Though she was ultimately unsuccessful, her history-making accomplishments were acknowledged with the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2015. And finally, Elizabeth Freeman, also known as Mombette, was a nurse and midwife who successfully sued Massachusetts for her freedom in 1781. Sued them, okay? Becoming the first African-American enslaved woman to win a freedom suit in the state. Her suit helped lead to the permanent abolition of slavery in the state of Massachusetts. So these, to me, they did some good things. You know what I'm saying? When the curtains close, what do we have to say about them? Elizabeth Freeman made it possible for other people in Massachusetts to be freed. She sacrificed. She made a sacrifice. Shirley Chisholm, she let it be known that you can run for president. She let it be known that you can sit in Congress as a Black woman. She let it be known that you can do anything you want to do and advocate for the people and be unapologetic about it. Harriet Tubman, what? Gangsters on Dance Day Boogie, baby. You know what I'm saying? Never got caught. Made 13 and 19 trips through the Underground Railroad. She was real gangster with it, had her shotgun because she keep her hand on her gun because they got her on a run. Freed so many people. She could have just left and been about her life. But as a good woman, as a good person, she sacrificed to make sure that other people had the same advantages that she was able to have. So God bless her as well. And again, Mother Teresa, just being an act of service, just being of service to the poor and the ill, I can't be mad at you for that. I think that's a beautiful thing. I just think about the quote that Nikki Giovanni said, speaking on we have to all do our part. We all have a purpose. Do you think you have a purpose? Like, do you understand what purpose is? Do you feel like you're living that purpose? I mean, when I think about purpose, it could be anything. I'll associate this back to the Terminator. Remember Sarah Connor? The Terminator was looking for Sarah Connor because they could not allow her male child to be born. Because if that male child was to be born, it was already prophesied that he would save humanity. So they were taking out every Sarah Connor to try to prevent the Sarah Connor from having a baby. And again, I'm talking about a fictional movie, but it's relative, right? And so that was her purpose. Her purpose, if nothing else, was to give birth to that male child. And what was Terminator's purpose? If nothing else, was to try to prevent that male child from being born. So, I mean, the spectrum is broad when it comes to what our purpose are. So you don't have to think so big and extravagant. All of us, have our roles. It could just be to be an anchor in somebody else's life, but just understanding who you are as a person and how who you are as a person can be of service to other people will help you understand what your purpose is. And I'll be honest with you when I say that I don't really think I know or I understand exactly what my purpose is per se, but I understand how I've been used, how God has used me, and I'm grateful for that. And the lessons that I've learned have helped me understand what my purpose may be associated with. Just even being here, doing this live with you is purposeful for me. I definitely am intentional as I speak with you. And, I pray that any information that I share is fruitful and that it inspires anyone and encourages anyone and gives you food for thought to do something positive and good in your life and in the lives of others. And so I want to play what Nikki Giovanni said, because again, we all are here to do something and we definitely want to honor our ancestors, right? And she spoke to this and I'll let her speak for herself.
It was easier to change the world than to tell our grandmothers that we couldn't. We gave your generation an unsegregated world, but not an unracist world. I think it's important to know who you do your duty to or for. You're never dead until you're forgotten. You can't let the fact that a bunch of fools and Nazis are going to be running the country for a while. You have to still find some joy. And that's, Black Americans are incredibly lucky that whatever religion or whatever it is that means to us, we always still find some joy.
And so she's cut from that cloth where you couldn't come home and tell your family you ran from a fight. That's what you couldn't do. And I remember them days. It was one, not too many times I could come home and tell my mama that somebody kept inciting me to one of their fights. At some point it was a lawn chair pulled out and it was a whole meeting, not in the ladies' room, but on the corner, outside of our building. And you fighting today. Because at some point, it's got to end. It's got to end. Whatever oppression that you're putting on a person, whatever terrorism you're putting on a person, at some point, it's got to end. And however that fight may be, there's different ways to fight. Me and this little girl, junior high school, we just knuckled up. And after then, we was good. And crazy thing is, because I've never started nothing. Listen, my spirit, I have that fighting energy. But I fight for the justice and equality and freedom for all people. All people. Okay. I believe the power belongs to all people, but I never picked on people or tried to incite a fight because I don't want to fight. Mama said, she didn't want me to get into fight. She wanted me to keep my face intact, but she also taught me that you got to stand up for yourself. And that was always in me. But when I felt, I shied away from it, she pulled up, like I said, with the lawn chair on the corner in front of our building. And it was a fight. Mothers and daughters were outside and it was lit and we all got along. Nobody died. But she stopped fucking with me. Okay. And the point I'm making is that, again, Nikki Giovanni said, you couldn't come home and tell them that you couldn't change the world. So basically you stayed out till the street lights came on, making every effort to change the world. And so that's the energy that we have to have as people. Those of us who are good people, we have to stand up and fight against bad people. Because these people mean us no good. When doctors are getting their certifications, they live by a rule that says do no harm, which means that you are put in a position to where you should never do something that would cause harm to your patient. If anything, you should be healing them and helping them, but not the detriment of their demise or their health, failing. And so, when people are out here doing harm, we need to stop them in their tracks, however they may be. It could be lawsuits. It could be protests. It could be speaking out. It could be fighting. Whatever it is, that is the energy that we have to have because these people will take full advantage of people who do not fight back. Shout out to David Horowitz. I know I'm aging myself, but y'all remember that show, Fight Back? He talked about consumer fraud and stuff like that, but it was fight back. That's what we got to do. We got to fight back. And it's nothing wrong with fighting back. Don't let people tell you that you're being a radical or you're being something other than a good person, but standing up for what's right. It's nothing wrong with that. And we have to have that energy. We all have something to add. We all have a purpose. Not all of us are going to be in the streets. Not all of us are going to be on the news and in TV and traveling the world. Not all of us are going to be in political positions. Some of us are just going to make enough money to be able to fund the fight. Some of us are just, we have law degrees and we can help, get these lawsuits pushing. Some of us have bus companies and know how to build things so that we have housing and protections or whatever it is we need. Some of us know how to, can train people on different things. It's just so much. Our purpose, there's such a broad spectrum, and don't ever reduce yourself or shrink yourself or find yourself being a whole person with holes because someone is trying to take the fight out of you. That fight is in you is for a reason. And shout out to Maya Angelou, who says it's okay to be angry. You ought to be angry. The difference is don't be the word she used, and it's slipping me now, but bitter. So it's a difference. We can be angry. We have a right to be angry. These are all emotions that are, we have thousands of emotions if we think about it. I think there's a book that talks about all the different emotions. Some of them we don't even articulate or categorize, but there's so many different emotions. We know the main ones: anger, happiness, joy, sadness, grief, But anger is one of them. but bitterness is one of them. But we don't want to be bitter because bitter will make you look old. Bitter just tears down your organ, it tears down you on the inside, just like hate. So that's why I say I'm grateful that I don't hate anybody. Do I got a beef? Do I got a bone to pick with some folks? Indeed. But no, you're not gonna affect my sleep pattern. You're not gonna affect the lines under my eyes. You know what I'm saying? You're not gonna do anything that's not beneficial to me, that's gonna break me down. And I think that's important for us to focus on. But yeah, shout out to everybody who's celebrating Lent up until Easter, and then it comes to 420. And y'all go do the knowledge on that oil and see if it was some hemp in it or some cannabis he was putting on people's foreheads, healing their cataracts. Shout out to Friday. He had the Lord is my shepherd. He know what I want. He had the cataracts going on. Yeah, there's a lot going on in the world. And I just kind of wanted to take us away just a little bit from the daily news, even though I think we definitely need to continue to keep our ears to the street and stay vigilant and understand our role in all of this. And how we want to leave this world. I think everyone's intention should leave the world better than we left it. Thankfully, others did that for us because we're in this position now that's a better place. But people are trying to take us back, y'all. They're trying to take us back. So I think I covered everything I wanted to cover today. As we wrap it up, let me get into this, what Ice Cube had to say. There was also a clip by a guy named Shaheed Bolson, and I'll put him on since I have a few more minutes in my little time slot, who talked about again, this is, we're referencing good and bad, right? And how basically these colonizers, what their intentions were and their gaslighting and their perceptions, and how that became reality to a lot of people when we think about the history and what people believe to be true about the history and just the whole setup of people here, the migration of people here from in America. So again, he has an interesting story, Shaheed Bolson. He was also convicted of murder. It was a foreign issue where some man was soliciting young women, and some kind of way he got him to come to him just to try to deter him from whatever his bad behavior was. And it went left. And, he ended up taking the life of that man and did time for, but again, fought against it. So I would encourage y'all to look it up. But here's what he had to say in reference to what we're talking about. And we're talking about good and bad people.
I mean, imagine you go all around the world and smash up everything that other civilizations built, loot what they built, pillage, steal, even steal their ideas and their concepts and their philosophies. And then you sit on top of this mountain of stolen goods and declare yourself to be rich because of your own merit. And imagine telling this lie to your children, to your own children, to your grandchildren, generation after generation. How do you think that's going to go? You didn't invest in creating actual merit. You cheated, you lied, you stole, you brutalized. And then you tell your own people that everyone else in the world has nothing and you have everything because of how much better you are than everyone else. How long is that lie sustainable? I mean, these are people who actually have civilizations, who actually created and built and accomplished and didn't just pillage and plunder. And there's still those people today, even though you have oppressed them, there's still those same people. And you're still the way you are. I mean, a good example actually is African Americans. I don't know if you can think of a people who were more held back, more deprived, more sabotaged than African Americans. You took everything away from them and took them away from everything. They started in your country at less than zero, literally regarded and treated as subhuman, not allowed to learn to read or write or anything for hundreds of years. But you see, they come from a people of accomplishment to one degree or another, not a people of piracy and theft and appropriation. They come from a people who created and built and developed in their own countries, in their own land. And even though you did everything that you could possibly do to suppress them, to hold them down, to hold them back, and you're still doing that until today, nevertheless, I don't think anyone can dispute the fact that African Americans have become a global cultural superpower. And people like this, with a history like this, with a legacy like this, simply cannot be held back for any length of time by a people who do not have a similar history, people who have never actually invested in their own civilizational development. And that's the West.
Yeah, he said what he said. He said what he said. And before I close out, I'm going to close out with a clip from Cube, and then I'm going to say, enjoy the rest of your Saturday. For those of you who watch later, I appreciate y'all, who, hit that, watch the replay later. Thank you so much still for joining me as well later. But I like the way Cube put it when we're talking about kindness, and good people sometimes get taken advantage of, right? And so sometimes people take your kindness for a weakness, and then he kind of spoke to that. So I kind of want to just get his point in before we close out, and then we'll get on up out of here. Here we go.
Notice that when you're too friendly, too nice, too kind, and too social, people start disrespecting you. They take your kindness for weakness and think they can walk all over you. People start underestimating you, thinking you're weak just because you're a good person. But the moment they push you a little too far, they're going to see a whole different side of you, a side they aren't ready for. If you're always being nice, always doing things for them, they'll keep expecting more and more.
That was a word too. So again, you guys, I just appreciate you so much. I want to remind you, don't go to bed without learning something new and doing something good. Do something good. Fill your cup, fill somebody else's cup. And thank you all that watch and chat. I appreciate y'all. And I appreciate you, Mr. Elliott, for watching live on Facebook and adding to the chat. Much love to y'all. Much love to you. My cousin, much love, y'all. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. God bless.